What up, African world? It's Home Team here, and welcome back to another video of African history, culture, and worldview. And welcome back to my series, A Closer Look. And today, we'll be taking a closer look at Beta Israel. By supporting this channel on Patreon, you're helping in the creation of these videos and supporting this content. If you like access to full courses and sources, or you simply want to show your support, you may do so by clicking the Patreon link in the description box below. Ethiopia has been home to a number of Jewish communities for many centuries. Some people refer to them as falasha, which means moved or gone into exile, but most people consider that term derogatory, and thus they prefer to be called Beta Israel, Hebrew for House of Israel. The origins of Judaism in Ethiopia remain a mystery, but it's likely that the community's roots extend back for 2,500 years. Some Beta Israel believe that they are descendants of Menelik, who, according to legend, was the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Others believe that the Beta Israel people were derived from the tribe of Dan, one of the 10 lost tribes of Israel mentioned in the Bible. Other people trace the origin of Beta Israel to the biblical parting of the Red Sea so that the Jews in Egypt could escape into Israel. The claim is that these believers did not cross in time and instead escaped from Egypt by heading south. Some scholars have suggested that the Beta Israel community are descendants of Ethiopians converted by Jews who migrated to Ethiopia about 2,000 years ago from the region of southern Arabia that is now Yemen. So as we can see, the origins are hotly debated. When the Ethiopian kingdom of Aksum adopted Christianity as its official religion during the 4th century, the Beta Israel community were forced to relocate to the mountainous region around Lake Tana. Over the centuries, the Beta Israel community, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, ruled a powerful state. Beginning around 1400, however, the Solomonic dynasty of Ethiopia gradually subdued them, and in the 17th century, the Ethiopian emperor finally defeated the last Jewish state and seized its people's lands. Most Beta Israel gradually gave up their traditional language, Aga, and adopted the Tigrinya or Amhara language of their neighbors. During the latter end of the 19th century, the Beta Israel suffered from famine, disease, and forcible pressure to convert to Christianity. By 1900, only 60,000 to 70,000 Ethiopian Jews remained. A man named Dr. Jacques Faithlovich took up their cause in 1923. He put the Beta Israel community in touch with the Jewish communities around the world, opening up a school for them in Addis Ababa and sent several of them to Jewish schools in Europe. Although his activities came to a halt during the Italian occupation of Ethiopia, he had achieved something very important. For the first time in modern history, the Beta Israel community had some contact with other Jewish people around the world. In terms of their religious beliefs, the Beta Israel have always identified themselves as exiles from the land of Israel and believers in the faith of Moses. For almost 2,000 years, however, they were completely isolated from the rest of the Jewish world. It seemed as though they never learned of the Talmud, the codification of Judaism's oral law, or of any of the traditions that arose after biblical times, such as the holiday of Hanukkah. The religious life of Beta Israel is based on the Torah, on oral interpretations passed down from generation to generation, and on the community's own holy writings. Some Beta Israel customs are similar to Jewish practices based on oral law and rabbinical literature. Others resemble ancient customs practiced by Jews during the biblical and Talmudic periods. Beta Israel villages, usually set apart from neighboring Christian villages, were always situated near a body of water for purposes of ritual bathing and purification. Religious life revolved around the synagogue, called the Mesgid or Beit Makdas. The Beta Israel have always kept strictly to the kosher diet and observed the Saturday Sabbath as a day of rest. They celebrate all the festivals mentioned in the Torah. In addition to those of their own tradition, the timing of holidays is determined by a religious lunar calendar used only by the Beta Israel. A traditional priesthood called the Kohanim are leaders of the community's religious life. During the 20th century, the Kohanim gained increasing importance as a bearer of the group's traditions. Because the Beta Israel community communicate their beliefs and rituals orally rather than in writing, the expertise of the priests has been vital to keeping the rites alive. After Ethiopia liberated itself from the Italians in 1941, the country's laws granted Jews equal rights with the rest of the population. The Beta Israel continued to face persecution and discrimination, however. Along with many other Ethiopian groups, they suffered a great deal under one Ethiopian king. Before the late 20th century, all but a handful of Beta Israel lived in Ethiopia. In 1984 and 1991, however, the Israeli government arranged two dramatic airlifts, Operation Moses and Operation Solomon, to bring thousands of Ethiopian Jews to Israel. More than 60,000 Beta Israel now live in the state of Israel, whereas a smaller number, perhaps 40,000, remain in Ethiopia, concentrated in the capital of Addis Ababa. The migration to Israel brought difficulties for the Ethiopians, many of whom were disoriented by the abrupt shift from rural life to westernization and mostly urban society of Israel. Few of them actually knew Hebrew. Although the Beta Israel community were free from the religious persecution they faced in Ethiopia, they now faced racism and a daily struggle for integration. Unfortunately, most Ethiopian Jews in Israel now live in very poor, segregated towns with unemployment well above the national average. Surprisingly, the Beta Israel have faced constant challenges to the authenticity of their Jewishness. Well, I'm all out, guys. If you like these videos and want to help out in its continued production, consider supporting the home team on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.